If you are currently working harder than you have ever worked in your life, and you still feel like you are falling behind, this is going to be uncomfortable. We have been told that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is just a matter of effort. That if you just grind a little longer, wake up a little earlier, and sacrifice a little more, the results will eventually show up. But at a certain age, usually after 30, the math stops working. You put in 60 hours a week and your bank account looks the same. You improve your skills and your boss passes you over for a promotion. You keep your head down and do everything right, yet you feel a quiet, gnawing sense of stagnation that you cannot shake. The uncomfortable truth is that your hard work is not your greatest asset. In many cases, it is actually a cop-out. It is the easiest way to avoid the much harder task of figuring out why you are not winning. Consider the state of your life right now. You likely feel tired, not just physically, but mentally. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from running on a treadmill. You are moving your legs, you are sweating, and your heart rate is up, but you are not actually going anywhere. In your career, you are probably the guy everyone relies on. You are the one who fixes the problems, who stays late, who never says no. You take pride in this. It feels moral. It feels honorable. And yet, when you look at the trajectory of your life compared to people who seem to work half as hard, you see a divergence that makes no sense to you. You assume they are lucky, or they are cutting corners, or they have connections you do not have. It is difficult to admit that your strategy is flawed, so you double down on the only thing you know how to control: the volume of your effort. Here's the problem with that approach. Hard work is a drug. It provides immediate feedback. When you work late, you feel a rush of importance. When you check off tasks from a list, you get a hit of dopamine. It feels like you are fighting a war. But if you stop to look at the map, you would realize you are storming the wrong hill. The men who get ahead in this world are not necessarily the ones who work the hardest. They are the ones who make the best decisions. They are the ones who understand that leverage is worth more than labor. But you do not think about leverage because leverage requires you to stop moving. It requires you to sit in a quiet room and think. And for a man who defines himself by his busyness, thinking is terrifying. Think about your daily routine. How much of your time is spent on high leverage activities, and how much is spent on performance? You check emails at 11 at night to show you are committed. You volunteer for projects you do not care about to show you are a team player. You obsess over details that do not move the needle because obsessing over details feels safer than taking a big scary risk. This is the safety of hard work. It is a shield. If you are busy, nobody can ask you why you are not successful yet. You can simply point to your exhaustion and say, "Look at how hard I am trying." It is a socially acceptable excuse for mediocrity. We praise the hard worker, even when he is failing, because we want to believe that effort is enough. But the marketplace does not care about your effort. It only cares about the value you produce. If you are digging a hole with a spoon, working harder does not make you a genius. It just makes you tired. We need to look at the psychology of this. Why do you choose the spoon over the shovel? Why do you choose the hard path instead of the smart path? Because the hard path is familiar. You understand struggle. You have been conditioned to believe that anything worth having must be earned through suffering. This is a lie you tell yourself to protect your ego. If you admit that you could be working less and achieving more, you have to admit that you have been making mistakes for years. You have to admit that your tiredness is self-inflicted and unnecessary. That is a painful realization. It is much easier to believe that the world is unfair and that you just have to grind a little harder to overcome the odds. Hard work allows you to hide from your own incompetence. It allows you to hide from the fact that you might not be operating in your zone of genius. You might just be operating in your zone of comfort. Let me ask you a question. If you were forbidden from working more than 40 hours a week, forced to go home at 5 o'clock every day, how would you get ahead? Most men panic when they hear this. They think, I could not possibly succeed with those restrictions. But that reaction is exactly the point. You rely on your ability to outwork everyone else because you are afraid to compete on the level of strategy. You are afraid that if you take away the overtime, you have nothing left to offer. This fear is valid, but it is also a signal. It is telling you that your value comes from your time, not your judgment. And as long as your value is tied to your time, you will never be truly free. You will always be a commodity. This brings us to the shift you need to make. You must stop valuing input and start valuing output. This sounds simple, but it violates everything you have been taught about being a good man. We are taught that the good soldier is the one who marches the furthest and bleeds the most. But in the real world, the good soldier is the one who wins the battle with the fewest casualties. You are currently treating your life like a resource to be expended, rather than an asset to be invested. Every extra hour you spend on low-value work is an hour you stole from your health, your family, and your strategic thinking. You are borrowing from your future to pay for a present that is not getting any better. This shift changes how you make decisions. Imagine you are facing a difficult task at work. The old you would sit down and power through it, 10 hours of grinding to get it done. The new you stops and asks if this task even needs to be done. If it does, is there a way to automate it? Can you delegate it? Can you ignore it? Most of the work on your plate is busy work created by poor systems. By doing it, you are propping up a broken system instead of fixing it. This is where self-respect comes in. Respecting yourself means respecting your time. It means refusing to be the mule for someone else's vision. It means looking at a pile of work and saying, I am not going to do this just because it is there. I am only going to do what moves the needle. When you stop using hard work as a crutch, your behavior changes immediately. You become slower but more precise. You become quieter but more dangerous. You stop trying to impress people with how many hours you work and start impressing them with the quality of your decisions. This feels risky. You will feel guilty. You will feel like you are getting away with something. You will sit at your desk at 4:45 p.m., watching everyone else scramble, and you will feel the urge to stay, just to be seen. Resist that urge. Pack your bag and leave. Let them scramble. That scramble is the sound of them using effort to mask their lack of direction. You are no longer that man. This does not mean you become lazy. There is a difference between laziness and efficiency. Laziness is avoiding work because you do not want to do it. Efficiency is avoiding work because it does not need to be done. When you drop the cop out of hard work, you actually have to work much harder mentally. You have to think. You have to analyze. You have to make difficult choices about what to say no to. Saying no is harder than saying yes. Prioritizing is harder than doing it all. Strategy is harder than labor. This is why you chose labor for so long. It was easier. It was safe. But you are past the point in your life where safe is enough. There is a quiet tragedy in watching a capable man waste his prime years on tasks that do not matter, because he is too afraid to step back and evaluate his life. He confuses motion with progress. He confuses sweating with achieving. Do not let that be your story. The hard work you are doing right now is a wall you built around yourself. It keeps the scary world out, but it also keeps you trapped in. You can stay inside the wall and keep stacking bricks until you die. Or you can put the bricks down, walk out into the open air, and realize that you were never meant to be a bricklayer. You were meant to be an architect. The world does not need more hard workers. The world is drowning in hard workers. What it needs is men who know exactly where to strike and when. It is time to put down the shovel.